Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's Urban Homework Spotlight. We're so excited that you have taken this time out of your busy workday, maybe your lunch hour, to join us for this conversation. For those of you who don't know, my name is AsaleSol. I'm the Executive Director of Urban Homeworks. Urban Homeworks is a 27-year-old affordable housing organization. We own 136 units of affordable rental housing across the Twin Cities, which houses around 400 people. We also develop homes for affordable sale for folks making 80% or less of the area median income. Our vision here at Urban Homeworks is neighbors raising their collective voices to address injustice and overcome the barriers that perpetuate inequity. I am so excited for this month's spotlight. We're taking on a lighter subject, one that feels lighter to me anyway. It honors the joy of community collaboration, folks coming together to invest time and resources into their own neighborhoods and the places that we call home. I also want to acknowledge that it is LGBTQIA Pride Month, as well as the month that we get to celebrate the emancipation of all those enslaved through American chattel slavery, which is a day that we celebrate on June 19th, known as Juneteenth or Emancipation Day, as that was the date of the last community, Texas, to receive word of their freedom. So in honor of those two important celebrations, I'm excited to discuss how we show up with our pride and with our liberation through our own investments in community. Before we turn towards our guests, who I'm thrilled have taken the time out of their busy schedules to join us, I'm going to do an Urban Homework Stolen Land and Stolen Labor acknowledgement, and then we will do introductions. At Urban Homeworks, we acknowledge that we live our lives and do our work on land that was stolen by European colonizers from the Dakota peoples indigenous to this land. In order for this theft to occur, sadistic acts including genocide, rape, and forced assimilation were employed. We also acknowledge that we live our lives and do our work on land that was cultivated and developed by bodies that European colonizers stole from West African countries through the transatlantic slave trade. In order for this theft to occur, sadistic acts of genocide, rape, and forced assimilation were employed. We acknowledge what was taken from our collective human ancestors, and as we do so, we commit to work and fight for the liberation of the descendants of those enslaved through American chattel slavery and the sovereignty of all Native peoples. And with that, we are going to go ahead and turn towards our guests today, who I would love to introduce themselves. If you all could introduce your names, preferred pronouns, your organization, and your role with that organization, and then we will get started. Marcus, I'm gonna kick it to you.
Beautiful, thank you so much. And thanks for having me today. My name is Marcus Carr. I am the Director of Programs at Ute Farm in North Minneapolis. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a local farmer and food enthusiast, and I've been serving my community here for decades. I can't even remember when I did before all the grays popped in. I'm just excited to share our work with you and just invite anyone on this live to join us this summer if they have the time, whether it's to eat, celebrate, grow. Ute Farm is a 27-year-old nonprofit. So most people that are here have been here since they were 9 years old, or this is I'm hoping this is most of my kids' first jobs, and I'm hoping they take mine, because at some point I need to go see some other things. because I embed myself in community. This is a huge part of my inner medicine. And I love sharing the activities and opportunities for people to come and join me to see what I'm gaining from it, yeah, we'll stop there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Marcus. We'll go ahead and pass it to Lane.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Lane Brown. I use they, them pronouns, excuse me, and I am the program director of Plant Grow Share. For those of you who are new to us, we are a central neighborhood program underneath the Central Neighborhood Development Organization. We've existed for the last 7 years, serving central neighborhood residents. And we do that through a variety of things, mostly gardening education. We love to teach people how to grow their own food. And we love to teach and share the abundance that exists here. It's been my pleasure to work with Plant Grow Share over the last 3 years. I started as a farmer and stepped into an education role, and at the beginning of the year stepped into a new role as program director. And it's been an absolute pleasure to lead my team of extremely talented people, extremely well-connected neighbors who live and breathe and love in the dirt just like me. That's all.
That's beautiful, Lane. Thank you. Patricia.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Patricia Ohmans. I'm a 42-year resident of the neighborhood of Frogtown in St. Paul. For those of you who may not be familiar with Frogtown, it's the area north of University Avenue and west of the Capitol and east of Lexington Avenue. Highly diverse neighborhood. I founded an initiative back in 2009 called, at the time, something different, but has evolved into something called Frogtown Green. We manage a couple of different community gardens, a sustainability education center, a pollinator garden, some science and nature education in local rec centers. We've worked with youth farms, so I'm happy to see a colleague there and see Amanda as well in the audience. Happy to tell you more about Frogtown Green.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Patricia. So we're gonna just kind of dive in and get to know these organizations a little bit more closely, and as well, what community beautification is and what it means. So I'd love to just start off with actually that specific question for each of your organizations. What does community beautification mean to your work, and how do you go about it? And we'll go in reverse order this time. So Patricia, we'll go ahead and kick it to you.
Oh, I kind of wanted to hear what everyone else was going to say first, but that's fine. No, I'm just teasing. I don't know. Beautification has a little bit of a sound of this phrase that I abhor, which is green gentrification. I think that what we're about, is definitely making our neighborhood more beautiful. But I prefer to look at it through a lens of public health and environmental health. This is a neighborhood that has a lot of challenges in those areas, and those are challenges that can be met through growing local food, planting more trees, increasing pollinator habitat, making people more aware of the disparate impact of climate change and severe weather on poor people. And we are poor here in Frogtown. So community beautification, I think, has the sound of cosmetic improvement. And I hope that we're achieving something a little deeper than that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Anything that you, just with that you want to encourage folks to think about when they think about their own homes, their own neighborhoods, just around what you said about how we can all really contribute? Are there specific things that you would ask of folks?
I think the biggest challenge that we face here in Frogtown with Frogtown Green is developing a sense of of shared community in a place. This is a neighborhood with a lot of flow through. People come here and 25% of them leave after a year. This is a first landing place for a lot of people. And so part of what we try to do is develop a sense of neighborhood, just in that old traditional way. And that as neighbors, we want to improve our environment. I don't know if that answers your question, Asale, but that's what's on my mind a lot of the time anyway, with the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And we'll get into how you all are supporting folks in doing that in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn to Lane to talk about Plant Grow Share and how Plant Grow Share understands the concept of beautification.
Absolutely. I really appreciated this question because I think like Patricia, I got stuck because I think community beautification is a result. It's not the goal of what we set out to do. We, as Plant Grow Share, we have the great privilege of providing resources that allow people to step outside of a system that doesn't serve them, right? You get, instead of not being able to afford your own groceries, you get to grow your own. And it tastes better than what you could get anyway. And it's a lot better than what's at the food shelf. And as a result, we have something beautiful. But when I see the words community beautification, I immediately get nervous. The neighborhood that I serve, the central neighborhood, has an extremely long history of displacement, right? In recent residents' mind, when 35W came through, they wanted to make that area beautiful and accessible to white folks. And what it did was it ripped out 50 square blocks, I believe it was, of Black neighborhood. And that was beautiful to them. When I think of community beautification and how we see it, I see a well-connected community full of Black and Indigenous and Brown and low-income folks who feel empowered to be outside in their community, who feel empowered to safely walk their community at night and at any time of the day. To me, that's beautiful. Like, flowers are nice, but I like to see people together and feel good about it and feel good about the ground and having a relationship with the earth. Yeah, that's my bit.
Yeah, that's perfect. And how, to that point, Lane, like, how does your work, how do you all approach the work of community beautification, centering Black and Brown voices, experiences, freedoms in neighborhoods?
Well, we do that by centering Black and Indigenous voices first. We look at the power dynamics of the space that we're allowed to take up, or the space that we've needed to reclaim. We look at who's receiving our services, where's the money going, how are we allocating resources right now, who's getting paid the most in our organization, and we investigate those dynamics and ensure that it's challenged at every step. We can't fix displacement. I can't undo 35W by myself. And I don't know anybody that can, frankly, but if there is somebody, I'd love to meet them. What we can do is gather folks together when we learn things like Miss Linda is gonna be evicted from a home she's lived in for 20 years. What we can do is we can hustle up our people and find a way for Miss Linda to own her home. What we can do is to make sure that Miss Linda gets to garden in the same place she's gardened for the last 50 years. That's beautiful to me.
Absolutely. That is beautiful to me also. Thank you so much, Lane. Marcus, love to hear how Youth Farm is thinking about the concept of community beautification and approaching that work.
Yeah. What's going on here? Sorry, my computer did a weird thing. Thank you. That's everything everyone said is refreshing to me. I tend to, this is, like I said, previously to you guys, it's medicine to me. And I like being present in it because I want to be a guide in it for people around me. And because when you look at this, it seems heavy to lift. Seems like a lot of work. A lot of people are intimidated by just being outside and being land stewards. We don't own any of this stuff. We're here to, to be caretakers of our environment. And when I think about community beautification, I think about all the things everyone said, especially empowering people to create their own possibilities. At Youth Farm, we farm to grow food. We grow community, we grow relationships. It's like endless possibilities. Food is the only thing we're all connected to. So I like having conversations around things that we're dealing with in our everyday life, in our immediate environment, using food as a tool. Not only that, but food is what we use to create the leaders, the people that need to take my job. And the people that need to feed us. When systems have failed, I want to be around people capable of problem solving and being still, not reacting. We've been dealing with failed systems for over 400 years here, and none of this is new. The only new thing about this is what I consider the new revolution. Inside of it, the most important part is you. So I need everyone to, tap into themselves, look for the answers that you to the questions you have, start inside yourself. Secondly, rest. Napping is the new revolution. Okay.
Yes.
Take a nap, and I want people to really, find, people with similar values and virtues and surround themselves by it instead of escaping into societal blindness. This is like, like the groups, massive groups of things with no faces. There are things that are actually causing this dis-ease in our community. All right, anything that causes discomfort is definitely the definition of the word disease. Just like that, we can also be medicine. Community beautification for me is really being present and being consistent in creating our own quality of life. And food is important because it's scarce in our community. I live in one of the most diverse communities in the city, North Minneapolis. I'm dealing with all kinds of stuff. I don't care to be seen here. I'm a steward here, and like I'm no more than a flathead or a Phillips screwdriver to my community. I come with a lot of skills. I'm a well-decorated veteran. I'm an accomplished musician, and I use all those things not as separate. I don't isolate in separate pieces. They're all one thing. Everything is one thing. And I tend to use it to gather the herd around, just really keeping our spirits up. The goal this summer, according to one of my elders, is if you don't move your physical, you lose your spiritual. So while we're in gardens, we're maintaining our spiritual connections, and we got to pay attention to the things that make gardens work, because they also apply to everyday life. These are skills that we've lost because, of course, the history narrative you all named, and we have to go back to that. We got to find balance here now, and that's what's beautiful about the work I'm doing. I really, truly feel safe in my community because I'm surrounded by people really looking for balance, and it's intergenerational. So while I'm on the ground, and I started with and I'm working with kids and developing young people, and giving them their own personal voice and ownership of pieces of their community. I have the elders whisper in my ear the wisdom that is going to help me be a better tool for those babies. And those babies,
Absolutely.
yeah, are going to be here to help lift. What we need to see, which is the benefits of nature being balanced. You know, while systems are taken away, green spaces from us, we need to balance out the benefits of nature. And that is the thing that we have no control over. We just have to be present and a part of nature, respect for nature, respect for each other, you know, the love of each other, love of our places where we live, you know, and things like that, regardless of all the noise. And that really give us, for me, it gives me a kind of power in my nothingness. It really does. I don't need approval, validation. Good job, thank you. You know, what I need.
It's your community, it's your life, it's your people, it's your connection.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, the depth of bringing in the spiritual context around land, as well as the history that we all sort of spiritually inherited knowledge that we have to return to. Really appreciate that. And I want to open it up actually. Katie, can we bring all of our panelists up? Folks named a lot of really, I think, just really essential reflection points, similar to you, Marcus, around systems shifting, around cultural knowledge and education. And so I want to just talk to each of you, and I want to talk to each of you just about your perspective on how the work that you do contributes to this larger notion of community safety, justice and equity. We can talk specifically about how it relates to food justice, but I think deeper than that, I heard from each of you something more than that, that it wasn't just about food justice, that there's other elements at play here. So why don't we go ahead and it would be great. Why don't we start with you this time, Lane? And again, we'll just kind of mix up our responses. It looks like we can't bring everybody up at once, so.
I love this question, frankly. I've been getting it a lot since 2020 started. What does gardening or anything that you have to do in the dirt do with safety, right? And the answer is a lot. It's so much that I struggle to know where to begin with. But for example, the garden is one of the only places where I have personally seen folks speaking more than 4 languages, more than 10 nations, more people from all walks of life end up in the garden because, like Marcus Carr said from Youth Farm, the one thing that connects us all is food. And food is powerful. When someone arrives in the garden, they're able to look around and see something of their grandmothers, something that their great grandmother or their great auntie grew. And I have not seen that not happen with anyone. We all are connected to food. And when you bring people together, regardless of the result, they learn about each other. And one thing that you learn if you're in Minneapolis long enough is the deep segregation that exists in our communities. And segregation is unsafe, frankly. When our white neighbors are afraid to see Black folks stretching out in the grass, or Indigenous folks taking a nap in the sun, or low-income folks sharing a meal outside of their home, that's a community safety issue. When our neighbors don't connect to each other, it's a huge safety issue. If my neighbor down the street is afraid of me when I walk my dog, that's an issue. But when you bring folks together from all walks of life and they find that they have something to relate about, when we discover that we do have things in common, things become a lot less scary. When you hear something scary outside and you know your neighbor, you'll call your neighbor first instead of someone who might arrive and end your neighbor's life.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lane. And, you know, Marcus, like you said earlier, food is the thing that really connects all of us. It's a requirement for our existence. I think the land also is a place that can be a connection point to what you said, Lane. And so again, putting that question to you, Patricia, but how do you see the work that you do going beyond food justice and really contributing to overall equity and justice for all people in our communities?
Well, I'll tell you a story about one of our sites, which is called the lily pad, you know, because everything in Frogtown has to have a frog connection. So this is a 25,000 square foot site, which is pretty big. It's a former home of a former site of a funeral home. And we've gradually been developing it as an environmental learning site, among other things. But right next door to the lily pad is a little bit of a shaky looking building that is the clubhouse for a group called the Cash Money Riders. This is a mostly African-American group of Harley riders who, when you first see them, frankly, they intend to and are happy to strike terror into your heart. They sometimes wear dog collars with spikes on them. You know, my feeling when I first met them was, yikes, I better be careful. And over time, the site, the lily pad, actually is leased by a Christian evangelical missionary, essentially missionary group in Frogtown. And Frogtown Green basically provides a lot of sort of the gardening advice and help. Over time, those two groups have meshed in a way that is totally real. It's not just something that you put in a grant, report. They have had prayer meetings. They have had meals. They have had barbecues. They now share a food distribution system that happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the site. So I'm giving you an example of what Lane is talking about. Once you get people together outside, they can relate to one another in ways that...
Oh, you muted yourself, Patricia.
Myself, but I did not mute myself, but I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't, that outburst came from somewhere else, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, my point is just to give an example to support what Lane said, that you have to get people outside of their homes before you can get them to relate to one another. And that's the beginning of neighborliness that is real. And that's where safety comes from too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Marcus, I'm actually gonna, because you kicked off this question, you triggered it. So I'm actually gonna shoot you a different question. I hope that's okay. As we're having this conversation and thinking about, we're approaching summer, I think that we're all thinking about safety, that those thoughts are heightened often at this time for those of us that do work in community. But there's also, right, these misconceptions about what leads to a community feeling unsafe. And so I just really appreciate you all talking about the reality and value of connection across class, across race, culture. Lane, I love how much you just remind us that we not only have to include our Black brothers and sisters, our Black family in these conversations, but our Indigenous family as well, right? Remembering like where we are and what land we are doing our work on and living on. As the audience for this conversation is is going to cross a lot of different experiences, folks that are very familiar with this kind of work and those completely unfamiliar. What are you all doing to invite folks in so that the narrative begins to shift around our communities, knowing that we don't get there unless we get there together? And so Marcus, that one I am going to start with you.
Yeah, and that also has a lot to do with, safety, and the impact of green spaces on communities like this. No one likes living in a place where they're traumatized and fear for their lives every second of the day. So, I tend to invite, I've been talking to people, this is all I do, I talk. I don't like, anything in between me and my connections. I don't care about numbers. I'm a really good judge of character. I trust my compass. It was installed in me by people before me. This work I'm doing isn't something new. I'm a vessel that's channeling, a lot of voices before me, whether it's, the Black Panthers, and, it's based on a very Afrocentric ideology for me. So there are practices that has to be put in place. And one of those things is really talking to people, simple human courtesy. And kids don't struggle with this. They come from different schools, different communities, and like 5 minutes later, we're running hand in hand, right? Everything that's wrong with our community are things that are, that are brought by our experiences. Adults, they have practices and things that we're like babies are watching, and they're going to grow to be those things. And we try to talk to people. So I use these green spaces as safe spaces for people to really be honest with me. And I've talked to, EDs and CEOs and millionaires and huge corporations in these spaces in my community. And I try to explain to them why. Because here's the thing, I would love your help and money, but with or without it, this is happening. And I have the same conversations with the guys standing down the street right now slinging dime bags, all right? When they come to my garden, they come to kick it because I'm there. I'm like big brother. People don't call the police in my neighborhood, they call me. They want to talk to me about what's happening. And my thing is to not react. I'm a very still person. So I tend to just hear them out and be active at listening, letting them know it's going to be all right. There's another approach to it. All these resources that has been given to me in this role, I've been using to empower us all. Whether it's helping someone stay in their house. I'm renovating a house down the street. One of the elders was spawned in there this winter, stuck in there. No water, no heat. We're trying to keep her house and make sure developers don't come turn it into affordable housing and kick everyone off that block. There's a lot of moving pieces in this work, but these green spaces are definitely a part of our toolkit for us to gather and really tackle some of these issues. There was the Chicago Botanic Gardens. I went to visit different food system, and one of them told me that plants, create connections, that are essential to people. And just as important, they also allow us to eat and to breathe. These spaces we're creating allow us to, okay, not go running and trying to, what I'm doing what I'm gonna do, and blah, blah. You got to hear me. I don't want to change anyone. If you choose to feel superior, you can have that, right? I'm gonna be here with my people, and we're gonna create our own possibilities. As long as you're not scraping the black off my skin, okay? if you try to do that, then I have all these people. Now we got an issue. But in the meantime, I'm good with whatever you choose to grow to be. This is not about black and white. This is about good people. This is about bad people. This is about rich people. This is about poor people. Right? We don't isolate in these, only in America do we do this thing in duality, you know, good, bad, better, worse, black, white. In every other culture, they tend to look for balance, and they tend to have a respect for nature that allows them the flexibility to create their meals for tomorrow, today. But while we had that previously, capitalism is so slowly chipping away at that time. 9 to 5 is becoming what? See what I'm saying? People are working 2, 3 jobs. Can't even afford a studio apartment. So there are some urgencies that this work actually, help us with. And I tend to invite people just by being present. Not everyone belongs here, but we'll be here when everyone else is ready. And I don't sell this. So you'll never ever see me on the North Side posting registration forms and things. I'm a known person. So if I did that, I have thousands of kids because all these kids need this. But what I want to do is I want to connect with the parents. I want to connect with their schools. I want them to see my face. I want them to touch my face and build a relationship with a Black man that's not toxic, traumatizing. I want them to see me play guitarellis and ukuleles and cellos and violins. You understand? And I want to be present. Not that I'm special in what I'm doing, but this is all about our presence and simple, benevolence, human courtesy. Okay, simple courtesy. So I will stop there and let other people add to that.
Yes, I just want to say ashe to all that you shared. Thank you for that. Yes, that was really beautiful. The connection, going back to the connection. Patricia, how do you see, how are you all inviting folks in to help shape the narrative, create a new narrative? You are muted.
What you didn't hear me say was that I'll be honest, it's very difficult. This is a fragmented neighborhood. This is a neighborhood, as I said, that has people coming and going all the time. And as much as I would like to say that we are successful in bringing people together across nationalities and ethnicities and languages and income levels and interests and pasts and ages and genders, we're only somewhat successful doing that. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that because I am an outlier in this neighborhood. I have probably more education and certainly more money than many. And so it's tough to know how to create a space where people feel welcome. And it's why I feel very happy when I see that in our spaces, there is a blending of people who would otherwise not encounter one another other than just passing on the street or waiting at the bus stop. Mm-hmm. The best that we can do, I think, is to create sites where there isn't much of a barrier to entry. So none of our programs cost anything. We provide garden space, plants, tools, water, mulch. We don't make people register. We don't make them pay. We just say, if you want to do this, that's great. The only thing we say in our sites is, please don't drink, because that does cause trouble. So that's a pretty bare bones explanation of how we make people feel welcome. But that is the first step, is just not to make it cost anything. And then beyond that, to try to be consistent about when we're there and how we treat people. We have regular work sessions at different times. We don't require people to be anywhere at any time, but we're there. And I guess I'm hopeful that over time, if you prove that you're reliable and accessible, that people start to trust.
That's great. That's great, Patricia. I really appreciate your honesty
Thanks.
around your own identity and the impact that you see it have as you work to build these connections and build this community.
Sure, how could I not?
Not everybody does, Patricia, so I'm just gonna just let you keep that in, let you hold it for a second, but appreciate that. Lane, please take this one home with your wisdom.
I have so much to chew on with this one. You talked about a shifting narrative. You talked about how are we including everyone's voice. And we do that in a couple of ways. Like Patricia said, I'm far from perfect. I've certainly only been in this position for about 6 months. And just by observation, I think the best way that we can shift the narrative is to know when to get out of the way, to know when to step back, to know when your voice is needed, to know when your body, when your physical presence is needed. I, for example, I'm one of the lightest skinned people in my family, frankly. All my family look like Marcus. I don't need to talk all the time. I certainly don't. I certainly do not need to talk all the time. If we are talking about disability, and I am not a wheelchair user, I don't need to talk about that all the time. I have to presume I know as little as possible, and all I can really do is to be a megaphone, if anything. I love the idea of being a tool. I walk with that. And I love getting out of the way. Predominantly, you want to talk about the narrative. The narrative is not just mine. I can't hold it by myself. So all I gotta do is, hopefully all I gotta do, right? All I gotta do is hold the mic if I can. And then in terms of like, how do we include people? How do we make people feel welcome? I think there's something that white supremacy does to all of us, and that it makes us feel special. It makes us feel isolated and special and powerful in our own silent, I can do it all myself, I don't need my community type of thing. I look that in the face and I need y'all. Frankly, I cannot do this by myself. I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. I need to stay as much out of that place of ego as possible. And I try to be human. I try to be as human as I possibly can. So if that means I need to cry in a meeting, we're gonna cry. You are not gonna tell me to shut up. We are gonna cry. I need to cry. You should probably cry. We might need to take a minute and stop and talk about what's real. Like, do we have to work during the week that George Floyd was murdered? No. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So the best thing that I can do to show up for my community is be human and allow them to be human too. And that might mean, we're eating on the curb until we can come to a consensus about where we want to meet, but we're gonna eat. I'll show up with food. I don't know, just trying to get out of the way and do that.
That was really beautiful, Lane. Thank you so much. You have all given us just a lot to sit with and move through as we make our own decisions as individuals that are a part of these communities, as well as organizations. There's a lot of organizations that have joined us today. And so hopefully we're all thinking about how we can continue to build on what Frogtown Green and Plant Grow Share and Youth Farm have been doing for many years. In these last 15 minutes, I really want to just celebrate the work that you all are doing, what you're excited about, what you're looking forward to. The conversation has been incredibly real, and joy and celebration in my mind does not take away from the realness. So if we can just go around, Lane, we'll kick it to you to start us off, but what are you all looking forward to this summer? What are you excited about? What do you want us to know about and celebrate with you?
So much, so much. The Plant Grow Share team, y'all, is a beautiful team of dreamers and doers and makers and creators and shiners, and they have so much to share with y'all this year. We'll have food preservation classes happening on the second Tuesday of the month. So if you want to learn how to make like a lilac cordial, I think is what we're learning this month. Come through. The earth is edible and underneath our feet, and come through and get some. If you want to learn about plant medicine, if you want to learn about growing your own food, if you want to learn about what kind of wisdoms the plant have to whisper to us, drop in on the third Thursdays of the month. That's our food growing and plant medicine classes. And this all happens at Hosmer Community Garden. If you are one of our white neighbors and you're wondering, how do I get involved without taking up too much space? Thank you for asking that question. We have quarterly solidarity circles. The next one is happening June 19th, I believe. Email the email that's in there somewhere, or hit up, there's info somewhere in there. Hit us up, we'll get you connected, and we'd love to have you, whoever you are.
So thank you so much, Lane. Marcus, tell us about Youth Farms happenings, and you are muted, just FYI.
Oh my God. So I love it when the sun comes up. You know, my birthday is May 7th. I'm like a sun baby. I'm out. And I become a whole different, you know, I'm morphing into my butterfly, okay? And being outside is like the most beautiful thing right now. There's a lot happening at Youth Farm. I'm under capacity. So like, you know, community volunteers is what make my world go round. My people is what makes my world go round, and the spaces speak for themselves. Just yesterday, we had Council Member Robin Mosley and most of the Minneapolis Food Council touring gardens throughout North Minneapolis, and just had their mind blown, because every stop we had like Toasty mint tea and all kinds of things, urban pollinating gardens. I need everyone to come kick it this summer. You know, I'm not someone that's I don't do a lot of like in the summer social media things besides updating my community about what's happening and what we're doing. And but reach out to me. You know, the contact is in our chat. I'm also like going to be building a 5,600 square foot greenhouse on Darlin Avenue that's supposed to connect all of our work on the ground. This is a space that we're going to share to connect all the growers and be one with the season here, standing our growing season, starting all our plants. I don't know if you guys know this right now, but Youth Farm in St. Paul is running a greenhouse at a middle school at Baker Park that starts over 10,000 plants every summer to support our work on the ground. We don't sell plants. Our job is not to sell food, but to give access to food and encourage people to keep growing. I'm also like a tool this summer. I'm gonna be moving with an army of babies. And what I wanna do is come see all y'all, especially you, Lynn, and all y'all. I wanna come see y'all in your spaces and plan celebration around harvest and all kinds of things, you know. It seems like a lot, but we can make it work if we like put it all on calendars and have a conversation about it. I wanna talk to people about this instead of, putting you on my schedule and calendar and emails and stuff. Please hit me up. Don't hesitate calling me, please. Yeah, the greenhouse is happening. There's huge conversation around it in the House and the Senate. My partnership with Lopit Adventure Camp, where we're traveling, mountain biking, rock climbing, canoeing this summer while we're in the garden, maintaining these neighborhoods, cooking the foods we're eating. Yeah, it's dope. I swear to God, it's dope. And I want to invite everybody to just, links at some point, whether it's once this summer, whether it's coffee. You know, I got some gems, I got some medicine for all of us, and I need just like you, Lynn, I absolutely need people. I don't do anything alone. In my entire life, I've never done anything alone. So I need people, I need to be around good, positive people, people that can also be medicine for me. The best gift anyone has ever given me is how they've seen me. I just want to tell you guys, I appreciate you and the work you're doing on the ground, and I look forward. I will at some point be in contact, trust, this summer. I can't go through everything that we're doing right now, just because it'll be overwhelming to everybody. But when I see you in person, I promise I'll bring all the treats. All right.
That's perfect, Marcus. Thank you. And I'm really excited about my sit down with Marcus this summer to get those gems and to exchange, really.
I just wanted to say to him, my name is Jackie Martin, and I just wanted to say he has such a wonderful spirit, and I'm going to try my best this summer to find him. Such a wonderful story, such a wonderful spirit, great things to say. I really enjoy hearing you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And Jackie, so happy to hear your voice and know that you're in the room with us.
Oh, thank you.
Patricia, what can we look forward to with Frogtown Green this summer?
Well, I hope that those of you who are over in Minneapolis will come to St. Paul, will come to Frogtown, and I'll give you just one date to remember, and that's August 20th. It's a Saturday. And COVID permitting, we will do a repeat of something that we did in 2019 called the Sustainability Circus, where we set up a bunch of tents at the lily pad, and we had circus performers doing tricks and trying to make the subject of climate change and sustainability a little less dreary, a little less pedantic, a little bit less white, frankly. So we had, for example, in our little tent about composting, we had people teaching kids to do a dirty dance they were wiggle worms and they were doing a dirty dance. So it's that kind of tone anyway, pretty silly, with a serious message, which is that neighborhoods like ours are going to be impacted the most harshly by climate change. So here are some things that you can do at the household level that are affordable, that are pretty easy to do, but you do need to learn how to do them. So August 20th at the Lily Pad, which is at Dale Street in LaFond. Of course, you're welcome to stop by anytime before or after that too, but hopefully we can see you there then.
Awesome. Thanks, Patricia. I would love to be there. Circus arts are so fun. Yes. Thank you all so much for your time today. It was an absolute joy just to hear your perspectives and all the wisdom that you shared with us. For those of you who have joined us as an audience, just really want to encourage you to support these organizations, to show up to these events that they have invited you to, and remember that we get out of our communities what we put into them. And so if you really believe in what you've heard today, please contribute. Contribute financially, contribute time, contribute word of mouth, and get folks on board with this kind of work. We are posting in the chat all of the links to stay connected and to make sure that you don't miss out on these cool opportunities, as well as to stay connected to Urban Homeworks. Thank y'all so much. We are abundant. Y'all remind us that we are abundant, and we will see you next month. Peace.